mystery in Delaware County. A couple was killed in their home 2 years ago. And tonight, our Shawnette Wilson has new details on a person of interest and other murders they may be tied to.
State police say a gun may be the link between two cases involving deadly shootings, one dating back to New Year's Eve of 2022. New developments in an investigation that had gone quiet since the double murders inside this Chester Heights home 2 years ago. Still, no one is arrested for the deadly shooting of 72-year-old Richard Zachko and 69-year-old Rita Zachko. Now, Pennsylvania State Police say a gun used in another shooting was bought by a person of interest in the murder of the Zachkos, who is also a person of interest in a murder in California. Federal investigators made the discovery after an incident on January 20th of last week, when they say a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agent was killed near a Canadian border crossing in northern Vermont after a car stop. The two people in the car have been identified as Teresa Youngblood and Felix Ophelia Bachholt. Bachholt was killed during an exchange in gunfire with federal agents. The woman was arrested. Investigators have not named the person of interest in the Delco double murders, who they say purchased the gun used in the shooting of the Border Patrol agent. Meanwhile, a neighbor I talked to off camera tonight, walking her dog near the victim's old home on Highland Drive in Chester Heights, said neighbors hadn't heard anything since the murders. Investigators then said they found the husband and wife 2 days into the new year while making a wellness check at the home. No motive has been released. Neighbors then said they knew little of the couple, but one recalled seeing the man and that he was friendly.
When we're going on walks, we'd always see him cutting his grass or maintaining his lawn or doing, yard work and things like that. And we'd always wave, and he'd always wave back and a smile.
And investigators are still looking for information regarding these two investigations. You can call any criminal investigations unit at Pennsylvania State Police. In media, Shawnette Wilson, Fox 29 News.
Okay, and welcome everyone. Tonight we have a Freaky Friday for you. Boy, this is really a shocking case that's unfolding. It spans thousands of miles, several murders. It appears we have basically a group that is serial killing, and identities changing. This case involves faked death. It just, you would not believe. So we're going to be getting into this tonight, and especially those of you in Pennsylvania and California, we need some looking. Okay, we need some looking into this. We need some tips coming into the law enforcement, to the FBI. That's what we need. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that, and trust me, in this little 2-minute segment you just saw, that information just flew right on by you. Okay, because you won't believe how involved this is. So before we get into that, let me welcome everyone in, and then we'll get started here. Let's see. Welcome to all of you. So glad to see you. Thanks everyone for being in here. Let's say hi to Amy and Mark Ellis, Stephanie, Rhonda Holton, Asphalt Salty, or Sally. I always want to say that. Nicole Watt, Oleg Cat, Silenced. And Lisa, Plain Iron. Who's Your Daddy 11? All right, we got Bonnie in here. Looking for anyone else I've missed. Tracy Thornton, Miss K. I'm trying to keep up with you guys. Pam Sheehan. We got Sweet Dude Shibby. And Carla Ann. Jim Chrisman. Gretchen Allen. Looking good. Mar R. Mama J. Deb. Trial Junkie. All right. Rebecca Ann, 1965. All right. And everyone else. And if you're just in the Lurker crew, go ahead. Be a gentleman and or a lady and join the chat and enjoy your other people here. The this is a lot to get into tonight. Just so much. You have no idea how complex this is. And I actually heard uh, someone refer to this case as tentacles. Okay. And this is the only other time I've ever heard tentacles used to describe the complexity of a case. And other than Delphi, this is it. And so I wanted to take somewhat of a break from Delphi, and I've been working on this a couple weeks. And I thought Friday would be a great night to bring it to you, especially after last night and how difficult it was for me to get through the whole show and the one before that. So kind of burned out. And I want to get into this because this is still open-ended, and it's very complex. We're still trying to assist law enforcement in picking up everyone involved in this, and really, I guarantee you, this is going to be a very expansive federal probe into all of this, because we're basically dealing with a murderous trans rationalist AI-centric cult of individuals operating online and in real life. And so far, it looks like we got 6 bodies behind this case. Okay, 6 bodies behind this group, and this group is at least about 8, 9, 10 deep. Okay, so this goes all the way back. Okay, so this story goes back to 2022. We're now in 2025. So this story is getting 3 years deep. And so it's, like I said, it covers several states across the nation. It covers, so I think we're in Vermont, we're in Pennsylvania, we're in California. We got dead bodies in all those states, and including, I don't know if you missed it in the clip that I played, but including the recent murder of the Border Patrol agent. You may remember not too long ago, unfortunately, there was a Border Patrol agent who had made a stop, and during the course of that stop, there was a shootout or an exchange of gunfire between the individuals in the vehicle and the Border Patrol agent, and unfortunately, he lost his life. So remember, when that news broke, it was sort of an unknown. It was not very well known what were the details of that. And I think that because this case is so complex and so involved, law enforcement is really giving a minimum of information. It's only through the really good work of a couple investigative reporters that we have some of the understanding, and the understanding of the tie-in of these individuals from this Ziz cult to the shooting of the Border Patrol agent. But no, it involves the so you got the murder of the Border Patrol agent, you got the murder of the parents of a lady or a person who was involved in her own parents' murder, and that same gun being involved in the Border Patrol's murder, and then those individuals tied to the individuals in California who are responsible for the murder by sword, the murder by sword, and the beheading, the stabbing and the slashing of the throat of a gentleman in California who was also you'll be learning about that, killed by these people after being stabbed not once but on 2 separate occasions, and the second time they managed to kill him because he was going to testify to the first assault during which he was stabbed multiple times. So this story is so insane you won't believe it. Okay. So I've called this the Ziz cult, modern day Manson, and this is my attempt to sort of begin to dive into this and to shed some light on it for the world. It's very complex. Trust me, we will be following this. So I have picked this up as one that I will be continuously working on. As time goes by, we will be following all the court action for all of these parties and the various arrests that probably will be forthcoming. There may or we're not sure at this point whether there may be a RICO involved in this as well, because this is clearly an enterprise. It's involving subversive activities. It's just very complex. So what's pretty upsetting is that there appears to be a complete lack of coverage of this from the mainstream media due to political reasons. Okay, so keep in mind that the politics of this is you're dealing with trans activists. Okay, these trans activists are the media darlings in the past 5 years. So you may have noticed the epidemic of trans-involved mass shootings, school shootings, etc. And this is sort of falling in line with that. And there's crickets on the side of the mainstream media. So it's incumbent upon us to try to shed some light on this and help, because like I said, law enforcement does need the help of getting this word out and getting tips in, because this is still very ongoing. Okay, so that's where we are, and that's what we'll be doing. So as part of that, we're going to oh wow, we're going to be looking. Okay, so let's see. Let me see how I want to start here. I guess first I want to say this show is going to be dedicated to Eye of Apophis, due to the killing of the Border Patrol agent and brother in arms. So Eye of Apophis, this one's for you, and we will be pursuing this with great interest. Okay, so first up, let's get started. So I guess I'm going to bring in, let's start this one. Okay. So this is why the Zizian or Zizian transgender death cult could be a tipping point. And it appears that I cut off some of the words. Did I mess up the printing of this? Apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. A murderous group of online transgender vegan fanatics calling themselves Zizian is allegedly responsible for 5 murders across the country, including a Border Patrol agent who was killed on Inauguration Day. Cult leader Jack Lasota, known as Ziz, prefers she, her pronouns. See, I can see that I'm going to have to go and read this. I'm going to have to go look it up again because, unfortunately, I appeared to have screwed the goose. I printed it out with a bad... here we go. There we go. Naturally, the San Francisco Chronicle obliged, okay, with the pronouns. But I do want to give the San Francisco Chronicle some props for bringing this story. This is the only outlet who has really brought us the story, other than one other, and we're going to get into that one. Okay, so we're going to get into these outlets. Like I said, there's no one covering this story, so there's such a lack of information. So we're going to be covering all the major outlets here. Okay. Confusion reigned as California news site Open Vallejo and then Vermont news site VT Digger both used they to misgender Lasota. National Post, a Canadian news site, used both he and they, referring to Lasota. Maximilian Snyder, a group member charged with murdering a witness against the cult, prefers any pronouns. Reporters have dutifully used male pronouns for him. One of the 5 living cult members named in reporting, Teresa Youngblood, is female. Every outlet that has reported the story so far has used female pronouns for Youngblood. I say so far because neither the Washington Post or the New York Times have reported the story at all, nor has any national TV news network. Arrests and prosecutions of the missing cult members will likely force them all to cover this most sensational story eventually. They were all scooped by Andy Nengo, which is how I believe you pronounce his name. Sorry, I don't know. But he first connected the shooting of the Border Patrol agent David Mayland in Vermont with the Zizian cult last week. Nengo has consistently used correct sex pronouns in his coverage. By the time this case becomes a Netflix series, perhaps everyone will be following his lead. We can only hope. This affair has real Manson family energy. It will likely end in an actual FBI tactical operation with sensational charges filed against this dangerous cult leader who inspired devotion through fear and threats. The story was first reported at the Post-Millennial and then the New York Post, where he noted that some trans activists online are pressuring people not to talk to authorities or journalists and are cheering the killings. Lasota, known to his followers as Ziz, clearly has a larger fandom than just his 7 named cult members, who are known or suspected to be alive. After it was announced that the elderly witness in California was murdered earlier this month, one X account that expressed support of the Vallejo, California trans defendants wrote, "Ladies and gentlemen, we got him." Yes, indeed. 2 members of the cult, Felix Ophelia Balcolt and Emma Borhanian, are already dead. That's right. Balcolt was killed in the Vermont shootout with the Border Patrol agent. Borhanian was shot and killed during the first failed murder attempt on a California man named Curtis Lynn way back in 2022. Lynn rented lot space to the cult, which lived in box trucks. When Lynn tried to evict them for non-payment of rent, members of the cult lured him into an ambush, struck him on the back of the head, and then stabbed him repeatedly with swords, destroying one of Lynn's eyes. Armed with a pistol, Lynn shot Borhanian dead and badly wounded Alexander Leatham. Police responding to the scene found Lasota there, this guy, and even had him in handcuffs before releasing him. Strangely, Lasota was supposed to be dead at this time, having faked his death. At least one other cultist, Gwen Danielson, has also allegedly faked his own death. In the second assault, Len was stabbed and murdered in January before he could testify in his own attempted murder trial. That's right, let me say it again. Mr. Lind, the old man landlord, was stabbed and murdered again in January. That's just before this Border Patrol agent was murdered. Before he could testify in his own murder trial, okay, or own attempted murder trial. Snyder was arrested later and charged with the murder of Lind. Snyder and Youngblood had gotten a marriage license in the state of Washington, though it's unclear whether they followed through with a trans couple wedding or not. Perhaps Lasota was merely shipping them. The gun that Youngblood used to kill Agent David Mayland is reportedly the same weapon used in the murders of Richard and Rita Zyko at their home in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania in 2023. Michelle Jamie Zyko, as I call her, allegedly a member of the cult, is the transgender identifying son of both murder victims. Apologize. Okay. I loaded up on coffee before this, so I think it's kicking in. Buckholt, who is young Blood's companion, was killed in the shootout. Buckholt was a German national and math savant who had immigrated on an H-1B visa to work as a quant on Wall Street. No charges have been filed in the Zajko murders yet, but Lasota is believed by the cult watchers to have ordered Zajko's parents killed so she would inherit their fortune, or he. Presumably, Lasota's super genius master plan involved Buckholtz turning the blood money into an investment vehicle that would secure the cult against all future rent demands from elderly landlords. Lasota's Sinceriously blog includes extensive excuses for his failure to find a job. Not only was he cursed by bad luck and rich parents, Lasota complicated every aspect of his life by prioritizing his gender transition. Accounts of Lasota's behavior speak of deep autism and a frightening, feverish intensity that likely repelled potential employers. Every violent cult leader hates to work for a living and blames the fallen world for their misfortunes. He seems to be no exception. A spiritual biography of the Zizian's cult begins with an intellectual movement and subculture called rationalism that seeks to understand human cognition and is concerned that artificial intelligence could destroy humanity. In the summation of the Chronicle, but Lasota splintered away from this Berkeley-based Center for Applied Rationality. You know what that means? These are far left extremists. Okay, we're just going to speak openly here on this channel. These are far left extremists, domestic terrorists. And you'll understand why. We'll get into it. But Lasota led a 2019 protest of the organization, this applied, a Center for Applied Rationality, at Westminster Camp and Conference Center in Sonoma. Lasota's group organized a blockade of the exits from the event using multiple vehicles. People trapped inside reportedly saw the group. This group was wearing the Guy Fawkes masks and black robes, shouting about transphobia, and were acting like crazed religious zealots. Along with 3 of his cult members, Lasota was arrested for felony conspiracy, misdemeanor obstruction, and false imprisonment. All the defendants used delaying tactics, demanding vegan attorneys, requesting a change of venue, accusing the judge of transphobia, and blaming the police of prejudice against trans. Finally, Lasota faked his death through false reports and obituaries of a fatal boating accident in San Francisco Bay in an attempt to escape charges. He has since been arrested twice, ducking justice each time by demanding hospitalization. Police released him after the attempted murder of Curtis Lind, allegedly because they did not want the headaches of dealing with his request of an ER visit. Lasota was also arrested at a hotel with Michelle Zajko and a third associate, Daniel Blank, after the murder of Zajko's parents in Pennsylvania in January 2023. However, Lasota escaped from custody after he faked a health crisis and was taken to the hospital. As we've seen in too many other criminal cases, these men's transgender identification has been a convenient means to abuse process, escape justice, and commit more felonies. Who even knows what other crimes Lasota has had these people do on his behalf? Crimes that may still be unknown. All right. I want to get you to this. Lasota's blog has been archived online. It's focused on topics such as machine learning, veganism, the importance of dual personalities, and the natural gifts of transgender women, per the Chronicle. According to rationalists who monitor the group, Lasota teaches that the left and right hemispheres of the human brain are at war with one another to encourage multiple personality splitting. He also allegedly uses sleep deprivation to destabilize and manipulate his converts. Lasota's writing also reveals the extensive influence of esoteric self-help woo-woo. He adopted beliefs in reincarnation. He practiced veganism and tried out Silicon Valley mind hacks with friends, inventing his own theory of consciousness. In this scene, Hegel meets Japanese animation. Lasota also writes painfully and at length about withdrawing from his family as a teenager, coming out as trans, feeling his own genitalia as alien parasites, and avoiding sex and most physical contact because of deep-held feelings and anxieties about sex, consent, orientation, and gender at large. Nothing here will feel unfamiliar to the reader who has examined transgender ideology through a critical lens. Lasota seems to have disassociated from his sexed body before 2016, the height of the Tumblr era, and developed a post-sex transhumanist philosophy for the very online autist. His concern that adherents should not eat the flesh of the innocent, even while taking innocent lives, is a moral inversion. It is justified by the supposed threat of artificial intelligence, a world-destroying demiurge that only the Zizians can possibly stop. As Eliza Mondergreen has documented in detail, transgender subreddits mainly exist for the community to banish doubt, constantly reinforcing the belief in a gendered being that is incongruent with the body. Using the 21st century printing press, Z's developed an echo chamber of believers, rather like many transgender TikTok influencers, then used it to struggle and love bomb his followers into submission. He took things much further, but the basic patterns of group behavior can be observed everywhere in the online trans spaces. Over the weekend, Mondegreen worried that executive orders signed by Donald Trump are worded too harshly, playing into the phobia indoctrination of a highly radicalized population that includes a lot of very vulnerable, psychologically unwell young people who've been told for years to expect a trans genocide. She has a point, but the Zizians were already acting out years ago. Just imagine what the next transgender death cult is getting up to right now. Sooner or later, the legacy news media will be forced to report this story. Or a story that's even worse, whereupon their audience will at last confront the contradiction of preferred pronouns. The 1969 Manson family murders were the definitive end of the Summer of Love, the moment when the 60s truly ended. Americans watched the trial, saw the crazed behavior of Manson's children, and then increasingly lost patience with the leftist absurdities over the decade that followed. Bell-bottom trousers went out of style, and so did flower power. History may be rhyming again. And that's a very wonderful article by Mr. Matt Osborne. Okay. And now I'm going to bring another one for from the Seattle Times. Okay. Seattle Times. Ex-Lakeside students charged in killings now linked to string of deaths. They went to high school at one of Seattle's most fabled private schools. Then they went their separate ways, both to elite colleges, where they studied computer science. Former classmates at North Seattle's Lakeside School aren't sure if Maximilian Snyder, 22, and Teresa Youngblood, 21, ever interacted when they were students there. But they had found each other again online and recently applied to get married. Now they find themselves in custody on opposite sides of the country. Snyder of Kirkland has been charged with murder in the stabbing and throat slashing death of an 82-year-old man in Vallejo, California. Prosecutors say Snyder killed the man to prevent his testimony in an upcoming murder trial. Youngblood of Seattle faces 2 weapons charges in connection with a shootout in rural Vermont that killed a Border Patrol agent. Prosecutors asked that Youngblood be held without bail, saying her case is linked to the Vallejo killings and to a 2022 double homicide in a Philadelphia suburb. A federal magistrate judge on Thursday ordered Youngblood to be held until trial. Her parents from Seattle sat silently in the second row of the courthouse, according to local media. Youngblood and Snyder and the people they associate with are linked, prosecutors and police say, to 6 deaths across the country in the last 3 years. And the cases seem to have ties to a vegan extremist movement whose leader goes by Ziz and was reported dead in 2022. Until court records say Ziz resurfaced a few months later at another homicide scene. Youngblood was traveling with a German man last week when they were pulled over by a Border Patrol agent in Coventry, Vermont, about 20 miles from the Canadian border. The stop in Coventry was a routine immigration inspection, prosecutors wrote, but without notice, Youngblood got out of the car and opened fire. This is her. At least one agent fired back. The German man pulled a gun, but was shot and killed. Border Patrol agent David Chris Mayland was killed in the shootout. Prosecutors say the gun Youngblood was carrying was bought in rural Vermont by a person of interest in the killing of a husband and wife at their home in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania on New Year's Eve 2022. That killing remains unsolved, but I don't think it's going to be for long. Youngblood and the person who bought her the gun were also in frequent contact with another person, prosecutors wrote. That person had been detained in the double killing in Pennsylvania and is also a person of interest in the 2022 killing in Vallejo. There were 2 killings in Vallejo, the one in 2022 and the one last month that Snyder is charged with. Both involve an 82-year-old man named Curtis Lind. In 2022, prosecutors say Lind was attacked by 3 young people who were tenants on his property. He was stabbed with a sword and lost an eye, but survived. In the course of the attack, he pulled a gun and shot at his alleged assailants, killing Emma Borhanian. Prosecutors have charged the other 2 assailants, Alexander Leatham and Soro Dow, with murder and attempted murder. Sori Dow. Okay. They were set to go to trial in April. Lynn was to be the star witness. But on January 17th, Lynn was stabbed again, throat was cut, and he was killed. A week later, Snyder was arrested and charged with murder, with prosecutors saying Snyder killed Lind explicitly to prevent him from testifying. Leatham and Borhanian had both been arrested previously in 2019 at a bizarre protest in the Bay Area that also featured Jack Ziz Lasota. Protesters dressed in black robes and Guy Fawkes masks, made famous by the movie V for Vendetta, were arrested for allegedly barricading a retreat hosted by the Center for Applied Rationality, a Berkeley, California nonprofit that offers workshops or rational decision-making skills, rational decision-making skills, according to the Chronicle. Lasota is considered to be the leader of a group known as Zizians that appears to be an offshoot of rationalists, a movement focused on decision-making based on scientific reason, stripped of biases. Zizians appear to be specifically concerned with animal rights and ensuring that AI models are aligned with human values. Jessica Taylor, a Berkeley resident who works in AI and is familiar with the rationalist movement and its offshoots, said Lasota and followers have strong ethical beliefs, including ethical veganism and anarchist-inflected political beliefs. Yes, but they don't mind killing. They don't mind killing. Just not animals. According to an online obituary, Lasota had died in 2022. A Coast Guard incident report details a 2-day search after Lasota had reportedly fallen off a sailboat in San Francisco Bay, but no body was found. You see that, how he wasted the Coast Guard's resources for 2 days? Gerald Friedman, an attorney who represented Lasota, said Lasota's mother told him Lasota had died. Yeah. But in 2022, 2 days after Lynn was stabbed for the first time, Friedman got an email from a prosecutor saying Lasota was contacted by police in Vallejo and was on scene alive and well. Court records show Lasota was arrested in 2023 in Philadelphia suburbs, 2 weeks after the double homicide there, and charged with obstructing law enforcement and disorderly conduct. Court records show Lasota is awaiting trial, but the case is marked as inactive. Now that there is the Maximilian Snyder guy. Okay. It says Maximilian Snyder enters the courtroom ahead of his arraignment in the killing of Curtis Lind. Remember, he stabbed him several times and slit his throat with a sword. He found me on Instagram. 6 former classmates of Snyder and Youngblood, who talked to the Seattle Times on the condition of anonymity, were not sure whether the two interacted while they attended Lakeside High School. Shortly after Youngblood graduated from high school in 2022, she told a friend she'd connected with Snyder after he reached out to her over Instagram, according to messages shared with the Times. He found me on Instagram and we've been talking, Youngblood wrote. It's very nice. During his senior year, Snyder was voted most likely to already be a spy in the high school's 2020 yearbook. Snyder's former classmates have described him as someone who did not have a lot of friends, well, what a pattern, and liked to be controversial in class. One former classmate, who asked to remain anonymous out of fear of retaliation, took classes with Snyder and traveled to Tibet with him. I mean, dude, are these rich kids or not? They're going to an elite high school, traveling the world, going to Ivy League colleges. I mean, come on. Traveled to Tibet with him and a group of 11 students for a month-long global service learning trip offered by Lakeside in 2018. I tried to be his friend, but he had quite high standards of others around him, the former classmate said. He had very strong beliefs about what was moral and what wasn't, what was good and who was good. Well, yeah, slashing old man's throat for demanding rent payment sounds moral, dude. Members of Snyder's graduating class, all of whom requested to remain anonymous out of fear for their safety, said the last time they heard from Snyder was in summer of 2021 as part of a large group messaging thread with about 50 former classmates. After graduating from Lakeside in 2020, Snyder attended the University of Oxford. Oxford. Did I say Oxford? To study computer science and philosophy. It's always the academics, man. According to his social media profiles and former classmates. Youngblood was in orchestra and choir at Lakeside and was Quiz Bowl captain during her senior year. I find it beyond shocking, Zane Nagel, a former classmate, said of the recent news. Teresa was the good, kind-hearted girl with the pink hair that sat next to me at advisory. Youngblood went to the University of Washington where she studied computer science, according to social media profiles. In May 2024, Youngblood's parents tried to file a missing persons report with the Seattle PD after Youngblood left the house with duffel bags, her passport, and medical records. Youngblood's parents reported she was acting out of character, saying she had become deceptive and had broken off childhood friendships. They also raised concerns that she might be in an abusive relationship, though the report did not say with whom. Neighbors say Youngblood's parents went door to door asking if anyone had seen her. One neighbor said Youngblood's parents mentioned a vegan documentary and said Youngblood had been researching rationalism. It's unclear where Youngblood went when she left. She had been living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina since November 2024. The AP reported where she'd paid a landlord nearly $10,000 to stay through March. Living just down the street was the German man who was killed with her in the Vermont shootout with the Border Patrol agent. All right? All right. And here we're going to go now to some of the only reporting, some of the definitive reporting of this case. We'll pull this one up. Has been this one. All right. The murder of a U.S. Border Patrol agent near the Canadian border appears to be linked to a radical leftist trans militant cult accused of killings across the country. Around a week before the January 20th attack, federal law enforcement had been surveilling German national Felix Ophelia Buchholz and University of Washington student Teresa Youngblood. Staff at Lindenville, Vermont motel alerted authorities about seeing the duo with a firearm and black tactical clothing. This is the Border Patrol agent David Mayland. Okay. When law enforcement visited them, the pair claimed to be looking at property in the area and promptly checked out of the motel on January 14, according to court documents. Then, on Inauguration Day, Border Patrol agent Mayland stopped their car in Vermont. Youngblood allegedly shot at Mayland, who was killed, and border agents returned fire, killing Buchholz. Youngblood is now in custody. Authorities now say the gun used by Youngblood and Buchholz, or the guns, I apologize. I didn't realize that. When I read it the first time, I glossed over that it's both guns, both of the guns. Okay, so the guns owned or used, apologize, can't get it right. The guns that were used in the murder of the Border Patrol agent in the shootout, the guns used by Youngblood and Buchholz are owned by a person of interest in other murders and connected to a mysterious cult of transgender geniuses who follow a transgender leader named Jack LaSoda, also known as Ziz. Okay, we got it right. So remember, the elderly couple in Pennsylvania whose daughter is the one who supplied the guns to these two who killed the Border Patrol agent. I know it's complicated. And this one, Youngblood, is the one who is allegedly supposed to be married to the guy in California who slit the throat and stabbed with a sword, impaled with a sword, the old man who was a landlord. Okay, let's see. Around 2021, Ziz was hailed as was hired as a quantitative trader at Tower Research Capital in New York. It's believed Buchholz was in the U.S. on an it's talking about young Buchholz. But see, let me tell you, let me pull this down. I'm telling you that the tentacles, I can't even. It's hard for me to read this because we're talking about a handful of people who are killing each other with each other and using each other's weapons. Okay, let's see. Now I have to find it. Where is it? Yeah, so I'll try to get this straight again. So let's reorient to who we're talking about. So we got a man and woman, but the man is trans So they're both carrying themselves as women in this shootout with the border patrol agent in which he is killed. And so is the man who's the trans, who's a woman, or who's a man who's a trans woman, Buckholt, okay, is killed. Youngblood is the female who is allegedly married to the guy in California who did the stabbing with the sword of the old man. The weapons they are both using in this shootout belonged to the other trans who is the child of the deceased or murdered couple in Pennsylvania. This is so complicated. Okay. Now, this Buckholt, who was killed in the shootout with the Border Patrol, around 2021, he was hired as a quantitative trader at Tower Research Capital in New York. It's believed he was in the U.S. on an H-1B visa. Okay. The DOJ says he was armed in the car and tried to aim his firearm at the Border Patrol agents when he was shot dead. Okay. Then this is him, her. All right. This one. Now, Youngblood, who is accused of firing the surprise shots that killed Air Force veteran and Border Patrol agent Mayland, was injured in the return fire. Youngblood is a biological female who identifies as trans and lists as having neo-pronouns on social media. Zizian. Youngblood was a University of Washington student studying computer science. Okay, and that's her on the right. Youngblood graduated from the prestigious and woke North Seattle private institution Lakeside School, which Bill Gates also attended. Youngblood's family had reported her missing to Seattle police in May 2024. Her family said she was in a controlling relationship and cut off contact, according to the police report. Her social media account on Blue Sky, well, that's a surprise, shows she followed some Antifa-aligned far-left accounts. Big surprise there. Okay. In November 24, Youngblood filed a marriage application with the 22-year-old fellow Lakeside alum named Maximilian Snyder. Last week, Snyder, an any pronouns computer whiz from a wealthy Seattle family, was arrested in Vallejo for the murder of an elderly key witness set to testify in an upcoming attempted murder trial against the alleged members of the trans extremist group. The arrest has revealed previously hidden close associations between Youngblood, Buckholt, and a cult now linked to 4 killings. Okay. All right. All right. Now let's see. Okay, there's another. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to get through this. It's so complicated here. Let's see. Now, see, it keeps morphing because as the days have gone by, more bodies have been added to this list, okay? So Jack Lasota left our lives. Oh, let me remove this. Hold on. All right. Come on now. All right. Now, let's get to this obituary, the faking of the death. Okay, remember, this guy faked his death initially to avoid arrest, but he wound up getting arrested anyway. But so we're going to look at that. It says, Jack Lasota left our lives, but not our hearts. On August 19th, after a boating accident, an obituary published on the Daily News Miner on September 7th, 2022 read, loving adventure, friends, family, music, blueberries, biking, computer games, and animals. You are missed. Lasota, who used feminine pronouns, had been out on a boat with his sister, Naomi, and friend Emma Borhanian when he fell overboard into the San Francisco Bay. The Coast Guard responded to the scene, searching the choppy waters for hours. His body was never found. For 2 days, remember, the Coast Guard wasted these resources. It appeared to be a tragic end for the promising, highly educated 31-year-old whiz kid from Alaska who had moved to the Bay Area to pursue a career in the heart of the nation's tech bubble. That is, until 3 months later, when, in November 2022, an elderly man was brutally attacked in Vallejo. Among those detained by cops on the scene was none other than Mr. Jack Lasota. 2 months later, his ghost would crop up in another curious location when police raided a hotel room during a search for a firearm used in the murders of an elderly couple in Pennsylvania. Lasota, it seemed, was back from the dead. But not only was he alive, now following a series of increasingly bizarre, disturbing events, it has emerged that this whiz kid of an AI expert lies at the center of a twisted tale that spans 6 murders or suspicious deaths across 3 states. There was an attack on the 80-year-old man, leaving him blind in one eye with a samurai sword sticking out of his chest. 3 years later, an assailant, Maximilian Snyder, returned to finish the job, slashing the now 82-year-old's throat in broad daylight outside his home before he could testify in his own attempted murder case. There was the New Year's Eve execution-style murder of the couple in their Pennsylvania home. And there was another incident, the Inauguration Day shootout between 2 suspects and Border Patrol agents in Vermont, which left an agent and 1 suspect dead. On their own, these cases are each shocking and on the surface appear unconnected. Yet each of these horrific events lead back to a loosely connected radical group of highly educated vegan transgender individuals that's been described as a cult and dubbed by online observers as the Zizians, or the Ziz cult. Described as a death cult by those in the know, they're an extreme offshoot of the rationalist movement, a philosophical movement based on the belief that reason is the primary source of knowledge, according to Open Vallejo. At the heart of the Zizian cult lies a figurehead who goes by the name Ziz, an individual previously known as Jack Amadeus Lasota. Now, Lasota is a wanted fugitive in 2 states. It's a knotty, tangled web of murder and faking deaths. So how did this privileged, highly intelligent 34-year-old computer programmer wind up at the heart of a sprawling case that has perplexed and sent shockwaves across America? Technological advancements seemed part of Lasota's DNA. His father, Dan, is an AI researcher at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Lasota followed a similar path, graduating from the University of Alaska Fairbanks with a degree in computer engineering. He interned at NASA and Oracle, and like many young tech entrepreneurs, moved to the Bay Area for proximity to the tech industry, which he says, I considered sort of my destiny. He wrote in a 2019 blog post. There, he had a stint at Google, took part in an apprenticeship by the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, MIRI, and the Center for Applied Rationality, and became part of a rationalist movement at Berkeley, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Jessica Taylor, a former research fellow at the AI research nonprofit MIRI, told Daily Mail she met Lasorta around 2015 or 16 at an MIRI rationalist event. We talked about things like when people make commitments, like New Year's resolutions, that try to coerce or bind their future self, and how this is confused and alternatives to it, she said, adding that these are fairly normal ideas for self-help or rationality around CFAR. Taylor said it was only later that stuff got weird and more extreme, pushing the belief that people have, quote, conflict between their two brain hemispheres, only one of which is good. Lasota began sharing these ideas and beliefs in a blog titled Sinceriously. Taylor said Lasota amassed somewhat of a following through the blog, including her own friend, Felix Bockholt, who went by the name Ophelia. The lengthy blog post, which ran from 2016 to 19, included titles such as My Journey to the Dark Side, Vampires and More Undeath, Punching Evil, Self-Blackmail, and Engineering and Hacking Your Mind. In one, Lasota described 2016 as the year he made a turn to the dark side. But it was 2019 when Lasota first hit headlines. Lasota and 3 alleged accomplices, Alexander Latham, Emma Borhanian, and Gwen Danielson, descended on CFAR's annual retreat in Westminster Woods, Sonoma County, that November, and barricaded the exits. The 4 protesters were dressed in black robes and Guy Fawkes masks and had flyers railing against the 2 nonprofit rationalist organizations, aforementioned CFAR and MIRI. CFAR does not do remotely what they claim to do on their website. They do not appreciably develop novel rationality mental tech, one of the flyers claimed, per the Chronicle. CFAR's founding premise that people were blocked in having tools to think was falsified long ago. Gerald Freeman, an attorney who represented the group in a subsequent civil case, told Daily Mail that the group was actually protesting over their belief that people at the event were engaged in pedophilia. Freeman never said he saw any evidence to back up those claims. He said his clients claimed to have evidence to support their beliefs, but the case was dismissed before it reached the point where such evidence would be shared. Daily Mail has contacted both CFAR and MIRI for comment. All 4 protesters were arrested on charges including conspiracy, obstructing an officer, and wearing a mask for an unlawful purpose. Defense attorney Dan Kaplowitz, who represented Lasota in the criminal case, said it was a classic case of someone being overcharged and falsely accused. Lasota seemed like a very kind and thoughtful person who cared much about animals and protested against injustice, he said. The criminal case ended up stalling in the courts for years. Meanwhile, the 4 defendants filed a civil suit against Sonoma County, alleging mistreatment following their arrest, including being deprived of food, water, and sleep in jail. Friedman said he was hired by the group because, like them, he is vegan, and they wanted someone who shared their values. He said this group was passionate, nonviolent young people. These were 4 kids that just struck me as very cohesive, very passionate, and who cared about the state of the world and not just themselves, he said. They were committed to veganism and cared about the relationship between humans and animals. They cared about pedophilia and cared about children. They very much believed what they believed in. They were passionate and, as far as I saw, nonviolent. Yeah, until they killed a handful of people. Spring of 2022, the case took a bizarre turn. Friedman said he received information that Danielson had died by suicide. Then, that August, he learned Lasota had died in a boating accident in San Francisco Bay. Things got even stranger in November. The old man, Curtis Lind, an 80-year-old landlord in Vallejo, was attacked by this group of tenants when he was called to fix something in a trailer. He was stabbed multiple times and impaled through the chest with a sword. During the attack, Lind managed to pull a gun and open fire on the attackers. Patrick McMillan, who was a tenant of Lind's, told NBC Bay Area at the time that Lind came knocking on his door with a sword sticking out of his chest. He says, "He banged on my door and I woke up and came out. He said, 'I'm dying,' and he had blood squirting out and a sword sticking through him. He had lost one eye, but miraculously, Lind survived." One of the attackers of Lind was Lesoto's friend, Borhanian, who was shot and killed in the chaos. Fellow so-called Zizians, Leatham and Suri Dow, were charged with Borhanian's murder, attempted murder, and aggravated mayhem. "I was completely gobsmacked," Attorney Friedman said of the moment he heard about the attack. He added, I've only ever had one case where the other party died, never where my party died. So to have even one death is just bizarre. Then out of the 4, I had one dead, 2 others apparently dead and not communicating, and the 4th in jail." Friedman informed the court in the civil case over the 2019 protests was ultimately dismissed. But still, more surprises to come. Kapelovitz, Lesoto's criminal defense attorney, told Daily Mail that he got an email informing him that police had encountered the late Lesotho during the Vallejo attack. "The deputy DA sent me an email stating that Lesotho was alive and well." I like 99.9% of my clients, so it's always depressing when one of my clients dies, he says. "So I was very happy to learn that he was alive." 2 months later, police across the other side of the country would report a second interaction with Lesotho. On New Year's Eve of 2022, Richard Zajko and his wife Rita Zajko were shot dead inside their home in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania. Their bodies were found 2 days later during a welfare check. Investigators believed that the couple's daughter, Michelle Zajko, was in possession of the murder weapon, and so they swooped in on the Candlewood Suites Hotel in Chester City where she was staying, according to a court hearing transcript. The search did not turn up Zajko or the firearm. Instead, authorities found an individual named Daniel Blank, allegedly a pseudonym, and Lesotho inside the hotel room. So you're understanding what's happened? So you got the Border Patrol agent who ends up being shot with one of these weapons is the weapon that's used to kill these 2 old people. When they go to the hotel room looking for the 2 old people's daughter, they find Lesotho and a guy who gave his name as Daniel Blank. Lesotho was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and obstruction. In Danielson's case, Friedman said he never saw a death certificate or evidence of his passing. But for Lesotho's death, he said he obtained the U.S. Coast Guard report about his drowning and the hours-long search in vain as evidence. Yet, here he was, very much alive and well, encountered in Pennsylvania. Not too far, though, after being released on bond, Lakota skipped out on several court dates. A warrant is now out for his arrest. The whereabouts of Zajko, who was named as a person of interest in her parents' murders, also remains a mystery. But something would then happen almost exactly 2 years on the thrust that the murders of her parents this person doesn't write well. Something would then happen almost exactly 2 years on that thrust the murders of her parents into the spotlight again. Around 3 p.m. on January 20th, after Donald Trump had been sworn in as the 47th president and was taking part in the inauguration events, At the very same time, U.S. Border Patrol agent David Malin stopped a blue Toyota Prius hatchback with North Carolina plates for an immigration inspection in Coventry, Vermont. Inside was Felix Bockholt, a German citizen, and a quantitative trader who authorities say at the time appeared to have an expired visa, and Teresa Youngblood, a 20-year-old computer science student from Washington. According to the affidavit, Youngblood pulled a gun and opened fire on the agents, killing Malin. Bockholt then also tried to pull a gun. Agents returned fire, killing Bockholt and wounding Youngblood. A search of the suspect's car allegedly uncovered guns, ammunition, cell phones wrapped in aluminum foil. This is where it gets good because they got computers too. Okay, so like I said, the feds are investigating this. You don't know what they're going to uncover. But let me finish. Cell phones wrapped in aluminum foil, 2 walkie-talkies, 2 full face respirator masks, tactical gear, including a ballistic helmet, night vision goggles, and a tactical belt. According to the affidavit, investigators had been carrying out surveillance on these two since January 14th, after they set off alarm bells when they checked into a hotel room dressed in all black tactical style gear, carrying a firearm. Okay, again, search of the suspect's car uncovered guns, ammunition, cell phones wrapped in foil, 2 walkie-talkies, 2 full-face respirator mask, and tactical gear, including a ballistic helmet, night vision goggles, and a tactical belt. A quick link emerged between this deadly shootout in Vermont and the Ziz cult. According to the prosecutors and the Pennsylvania State Police, the 2 guns used by Youngblood and Bockholt had been purchased by the person of interest in the double homicide of her mother, Michelle Zajko. Prosecutors also alleged that Bockholt flew into the U.S. just hours before the murders. Youngblood and Zajko were also acquainted with and had been in frequent contact with an individual detained by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania during that homicide investigation. That individual is also a person of interest in a homicide in Vallejo, California, prosecutors wrote in the court filing. The individual is not named in these documents, so it's unclear whether it's referring to Lasota or not. Okay. After news of the Vermont shootout and Bockholt's death broke, Taylor posted on X, "I remember warning Ophelia that the Zizians were a death cult with a high death rate. She told Daily Mail she spotted a pattern for a number of deaths in this group and tried to warn her friend. She last heard from Bockholt, who went by Ophelia, in early 2023 and fears he became radicalized." Well, he's dead now. When asked about her reaction to learning her friend was involved in the Vermont shootout, she said she was surprised but not shocked because Ophelia was a fan of Ziz, so could have been radicalized. And it seems Youngblood's family was also concerned. In May 2024, she was reported missing with police records, citing fears that she was in a controlling relationship and cited as a missing person. The connection between the Vermont shooting and the vegan cult doesn't end there. In November, Youngblood and an Oxford University graduate, Maximilian Snyder, applied for a marriage license, according to the AP, Associated Press. And in what marks another twist in the sprawling saga, 3 days before the Border Patrol shooting, Snyder is accused of murdering none other than Curtis Lind. More than 2 years had passed since the initial attack on Lind, and he was set to become the star witness in his alleged attacker's trial. On January 17th, Lind was approached. Remember, this is 3 days before January 20th, when Officer Malin was shot in the shootout with Border Patrol. So 3 days prior, Lind was executed. He was stabbed multiple times in the chest, and then the attacker returned to slit his throat. Snyder was arrested and charged with Lind's murder. Prosecutors alleging the 82-year-old was killed to silence him from testifying to the 2022 attack. Once again, the only thing connecting all of these twisting cases and this sprawling web of events is the so-called Zizian cult. For Friedman, the trail of death and destruction left in the wake of the cult doesn't marry with these 4 kids who were nonviolent and cared about the state of the world back in 2019. We have society, this junction, he said. So we have this high ideal, and then sometimes we will do the opposite. How many people profess to love animals, but what do they eat, he said. I see the same pattern. You can have people who are very passionate, but they have an exception for something else. That's the way our society is, says the insane lunatic vegan attorney for these individuals. So let me show you, I'd like to show you the dead guy, okay? And by that, I mean the old man. Okay, so let me show you the old man because he's worth it. So this is the old man who, like I said, you will see that he has an injured eye because in the initial attack, his eye was injured in the initial attack by this group. And remember, he survived being impaled through the chest with a samurai sword. Okay? And like I said, on January 17th, as he was due to testify in an upcoming trial about that attack, he was attacked again and stabbed again multiple times and then cut his throat cut. Okay, here are 2 of the individuals in that attack. Okay, just want to show you some of the people involved here. These are your people. This is another of the old man before his attack, you see. "82 years old. These are the elderly couple. You see how they like killing the weak? You notice they're not killing people their age, like young, capable, able-bodied. They're punks. They're killing they're killing old folks. These are the couple in Pennsylvania who were killed in their home by their daughter, allegedly. Okay, so that's the elderly couple from Pennsylvania. And then let me show you again the Border Patrol agent. Mr. David Mayland. Okay. All right. Okay, and here are the Maximilian Snyder and Teresa Youngblood, the alleged married trans couple. All right. And this is the guy that was killed in the shootout with the Border Patrol agent that Youngblood was with. Okay. So far, what do we have? 6 bodies, I believe, behind this. All right, I want to read one more, and then I'm going to show you some coverage. But trust me, I mean, we could read this 500 times and still not understand it. It's so complex. It keeps circling back on itself, this group of people. But thanks, everyone, for being here. Thanks for being here. Please hit the like. I know that We got a small crowd because I'm not talking about Delphi. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. All right. Let's see. A string of killings across America, including the stabbing death of a landlord in Vallejo, a deadly shootout in Vermont, and the massacre of a married couple in Pennsylvania, are seemingly connected by a fringe group led by an elusive leader in the Bay Area. In Vermont and California, the two suspects appeared in court this week facing criminal charges. Oxford-educated scientist Maximum Snyder was charged in Solano County with the murder of Vallejo landlord Curtis Lynn. In Vermont, 21-year-old data scientist Teresa Youngblood was charged in connection with the killing of a Border Patrol agent in a shootout near the Canadian border. It has now been revealed that Snyder and Youngblood recently applied for a marriage license. The connection, though, appears to run deeper than a marriage proposal. The couple has ties to a fringe group online named the Zizians. The namesake of the group, Ziz, has been accused of making death threats. Okay, now listen. Please listen closely now. We're getting to the good part. The second half of the show is going to be much better. That we've been orienting ourselves, okay? All right. Thank you, Mark Ellis. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Mark. This is where it gets really interesting. Okay, so please, don't tune out now, because I mean this goes so deep. Okay, where am I? So now we're going to talk about this Jack LaSoda. Okay, the leader, the Manson of the group. Okay, the Manson of the group, Jack LaSoda. Ziz has been accused of making death threats on forums promoting a radical form of rationalism, which discusses the ethics of veganism, artificial intelligence destroying humanity, and using scientific techniques to enhance human decision-making. A recent open Vallejo investigation, and this is from SF Gate. It's a very good article. I just had problems printing it for some reason. It was formatting all weird. So this is if you're interested in this, you can go to SF Gate for this article. It's a really good one. An open Vallejo investigation identified Ziz as Jack LaSoda, a former tenant at a property on 3rd Street in Vallejo, where a samurai sword attack in 2022 left tenant Emma Borhanian, 31, dead, and landlord Curtis Lynn without an eye. Lynn was stabbed to death at the property earlier this month before he could testify in the trial related to the 2022 attack. In November 2019, LaSoda, Borhanian, Gwen Danielson, and Alexander Latham went to Westminster Woods, a children's outdoor camp in Occidental, wearing Guy Fawkes-style masks, dressed in all black robes. According to their attorney at the time, they were protesting, quote, the cover-up of child molestation by one or more people, close quotation. It's not clear who this refers to, or if there are credible allegations of child molestation related to this location. During the protest, the four were arrested by deputies from the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office. And as a result of those arrests, they later filed a lawsuit alleging that they were tortured and essayed while in custody. On February 17, 2023, the group's attorney, Gerald Friedman, was granted a remarkable motion by the court. He had asked to withdraw from the case due to the fact that 3 of the 4 clients were definitely or possibly deceased. First was Borhanian, who was killed during the alleged assault on Lynn in Vallejo. The second was Danielson. Friedman wrote that he had last heard from her on January 21st, 2022. 3 months later, he heard rumor that she may have self-deleted. On September 9th, 2022, I received an email, he says, apparently from a friend of Gwen Danielson, that asked if I can share anything about her rumored self-deletion, he wrote. Taken at face value, the email confirms that Gwen Danielson is missing from her friends. I have no information whether Gwen Danielson is alive or not, and if she is alive, where she might be. Finally, there was Jack Lasota. According to Friedman, he received a phone call in August 2022 from Lasota's defense attorney in a separate criminal case. That attorney told Friedman that Lasota fell from a boat in San Francisco Bay and was likely dead. When Friedman reached out to Lasota's mother, she also confirmed that Jack Lasota was dead. So he's got his mother confirming. Right. That's right, Tracy Thornton. That's right. I'll get to my comments after I'm done with all the information. Okay, sorry. Friedman obtained the U.S. Coast Guard report on Lasota's apparent drowning, which was submitted in evidence to the court. According to the Coast Guard, Lasota went overboard at approximately 11 p.m. on August 19, 2022. See, this is all the faking. They seem to be exhibiting this pattern of the changing of identities. So what they do, they change physical look, okay? Then they change names. Then they change status. So it's first it's to change the appearance, then to change the identity, and then they change the status of alive or dead. So they're all faking their own deaths as part of the sequence of trying to disappear, I guess, from society. But in the process of all this chaos, half of them have ended up dead now, you know. And they're leaving a trail of bodies behind them across the country. Despite hours of searching and calm seas, clear weather, and a 60-degree night, no trace of Lasota was found. An obituary posted to legacy.com appeared not long after that, stating only that Lasota had left our lives but not our hearts on August 19th after a boating accident. Loving adventure, friends, family, music, blueberries, biking, computer games, and animals, you are missed. Close quotation. Less than 3 months later, Friedman said he was forwarded an email from the Sonoma County District Attorney's Office. I just wanted to reach out and let you know that Jack Lasota was contacted by police in Vallejo this weekend. Lota was on scene, alive and well, it read. Soon, Lasota would be confirmed alive by another police department. In early 2023, January, Pennsylvania State Police troopers descended on the Candlewood Suites in Chester City. In hand, they had a search warrant for a room being occupied by Michelle Zajko, whose parents, Richard and Rita, had been shot and killed in their home on New Year's Eve, 2022. One of the troopers testified in court that they believed the weapon in the killing, a 9mm Swiss & Wesson, was in Zajko's possession. During their search, the trooper said Zajko indicated she had companions in another hotel room. Upon searching that room, the trooper testified that they found Lasota, who was identified through fingerprints. Oh, what that smells like? He didn't want to give his identity, but they fingerprinted him and they got his damn identity. This was 17 months after Lasota had allegedly died in San Francisco Bay in the drowning at the boating incident. Lasota was charged with obstruction of justice and disorderly conduct and released. SF Gate could not independently confirm Danielson is dead. A spokesperson from the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office said Lasota is still wanted on an outstanding warrant, but has not been in contact since last being booked into the county jail. This group has been described by some as a cult. An anonymous website titled Zizian claims that what started as self-improvement from Ziz soon evolved into a blog with posts encouraging members to isolate themselves from friends and family and hurting people she didn't like. Close quotation. The Post also claims that Ziz attempted and failed to live rent-free on a boat in San Francisco Bay, but became embittered by the dysfunction of the bay, close quotation. Another lengthy anonymous 2023 post on Medium warned of future violence from Ziz and her followers, or his followers. Some people in the rationalist community are concerned about risk of physical violence from Ziz and some of his associates. Jessica Taylor, a friend of Felix Bockholt, who died in the Border Patrol shootout last week, told Open Vallejo that she warned Bockholt that the Zizians and the group described as the followers were a death cult. Lesoto's parents did not return a request for a comment at this time. All right. Now, here are some quotes from the warnings that some anonymous individual posted about this group. It says, over the past few years, Ziz has repeatedly called for the deaths of many classes of people. In August of 2022, Ziz fakes his own death. Ziz's close associate, Gwen Danielson, may have done the same thing. In November 2022, 3 associates of Ziz, Sami Laugencia, Emma Borhanian, and somebody going by the alias Sori Dow got into a violent conflict with their landlord in Vallejo. According to court records, Somni stabbed the landlord in the back with a sword, and the landlord shot Somni and Emma. Emma died, and Somni and Suri were arrested. Ziz and Gwen were seen by the police at the scene alive. Remember, this is after they had faked their own deaths. Pennsylvania police believe, based on a lot of circumstantial evidence, that one or more of Ziz, Michelle Zajko, or Daniel Blank was very plausibly involved in the murder of Jamie's parents in Pennsylvania around December 31st, 2022. I don't know of any concrete plans by Ziz to do anything else violent, but it seemed like a good idea to raise a loud alarm about all of this now. People should speak up or tell a friend if they have information and take whatever safety precautions make sense for their situation in the case more violence occurs at some point. Even seemingly minor pieces of information might be helpful here, since they could add up to a clear picture when combined with other information that also seems minor. Okay? It's a complicated situation. I don't fully understand. I've talked to a lot of people in an attempt to piece together what happened, and I'll try to post an update with corrections when they are brought to my attention. Please keep in mind, I'm trying to keep in mind myself that every observation is evidence. Things are often not what they seem. Okay? Anyway, then it gives you the photos of all this group. Okay? And these are the photos that I've used in my thumbnail. Okay, so I'll show them to you without the filter. So in this particular photo, you're going to see Ziz, Gwen Danielson, who's also transgender, Somni Laugencia, Daniel Blank, Michelle Jamie MJ Zyko, who's also transgender, and Suri Dow, who's also. Okay, this is that group. And remember, it's your guy at the top left that you're really looking for. All right. Now, there's a little thing I want to do, which is there has been incredible reporting. The guy who broke this, at least for me, I want to play for you some of his work because it's very important. Like he makes it very understandable. So we're going to go and we're going to look at two short segments, and trust me, this is really going to help us. I think we're pretty oriented now to all of this. So you can see that those are the 6 individuals, but we're really talking about, we're looking for the one, currently in custody. We already have the living person involved in the shootout with Border Patrol, and then you've got the guy that killed the old man in Vallejo. So you see where we're looking now is for this Jack. Okay, so let's look. So let me show you this.
Was the arraignment for Maximilian Snyder, charged.
Let me start it over here.
Today was the arraignment for Maximilian Snyder, charged yesterday with the murder of Curtis Lind, elderly Vallejo resident. His attorney was out of the country, and so they wound up postponing it. But we did get to see him for the first time. Curtis Lind, he owns this property in Vallejo, basically a junkyard with a bunch of trailers inside that he would rent out to people to live. And so a number of these associates lived in there. And back in 2022, they attacked him and wound up stabbing him and impaling him with a sword. But he fought them off with a handgun. 2 of those suspects are still on trial, and so he was the only eyewitness to that attack. In this new charge, the DA is alleging that he was murdered to keep him quiet so he could not testify. In addition to the Vallejo cases, there are federal charges now. That happened in Vermont, where there was a shootout between border agents and 2 individuals who have links to this Vallejo group. One of those individuals was shot and killed in the shootout. The other was shot and injured, and a border agent was killed in that shootout. The woman is now charged with a crime, and in those charging documents, the federal government is linking that case to this Vallejo homicide. In addition, they're saying that there's some links to a double homicide in Pennsylvania involving an elderly couple. A number of these people involved in the Vallejo attempted murder and murder have links to a bizarre protest in Sonoma County back in 2019, protesting against artificial intelligence and some other technology groups. And they went to a group's reunion, blocked off the exits with vehicles, showed up in Guy Fawkes masks and wearing black robes. I happened to be the reporter who covered that back then, so I knew some of these individuals already, and finding out that they were involved in these Vallejo attacks opened Pandora's box as to all these other implications with other crimes across the country that we're frankly still sorting out. I mean, is this a cult that has a bunch of members who are acting out across the country? Is this individuals who believe in the same thing about technology and about rational thought? We don't really know yet. It's very premature, but it's obviously now we have some very firm charges being filed against a number of these people who know each other. You get a lot of complicated cases. This is right up there at the top.
All right. So that's a great one from Matthias Gaffney. Okay, and that's with San Francisco Chronicle. He did a great introduction there, and now he has an update. So let's watch this next one as an update that's more recent. And boy, this one, if you think the past hour of going through all those articles and trying to figure it out was something, even in video format, it's extremely tangled. It's a tangled web. Okay, so we're going to watch this next one probably 3 or 4 times because I'm telling you, this is such a tangled web. But he's done an amazing job. He's got every bullet point hit. It's just that it's going to take like some time to really wrap your mind around it. But let's pull that one up because once again, he knocked it out of the park again. And thanks to him.
Was a murder in Vallejo connected to the killing of a Border Patrol agent in Vermont, an elderly couple in Pennsylvania, and a fringe group in the Bay Area. I've been working with my colleagues at the Chronicle to make it all make sense for you. Let's go back to November 2019. A radical offshoot of the rationalist movement called the Zizians stage a protest against the Center for Applied Rationality while dressed in black robes and Guy Fawkes masks. Ziz, the group leader, who's also known as Jack Lasota, and 3 associates were arrested: Emma Borhanian, Gwen Danielson, and Alexander Leatham. Fast forward almost 2 years, Ziz and the associates file a federal lawsuit against Sonoma County, Westminster Woods, and the 2 deputies. They say they were wrongly arrested, abused, assaulted, and mocked for being transgender. In August of 2022, Ziz allegedly dies in a boating accident in San Francisco Bay, according to an obituary in a Fairbanks, Alaska newspaper. Then in November, Leatham, Borhanian, and Dow allegedly attack their Vallejo landlord, Curtis Lind, with one impaling him with a samurai sword through his chest. Lind shoots 2 of his assailants, killing Borhanian. Lind survives the attack, but is left blind in one eye. Leatham and Dow are charged with murder and attempted murder. A few months later, in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania, Richard Zatko and his wife Rita are found shot to death in their home. And Jack Lasota, the namesake of the Zizian movement, was arrested in the state as police investigated that crime, indicating that Ziz was actually very much alive. Remember the federal lawsuit Ziz filed in 2021? That's now dismissed because the plaintiffs are unwilling to pursue further action. In November of last year, Teresa Youngblood and Maximilian Snyder apply for a marriage license in Washington state. It's unclear if they ever got married. The couple school together in Seattle and studied computer science at prestigious universities. We'll get back to them in a second. On January 17th, 2025, Curtis Lind, the Vallejo landlord, is attacked and stabbed yet again. This time, Lind dies from his injuries. We talked to a man who works at an auto body shop across the street from where the crime happened. Here's what he said at the gruesome killing.
El señor, Mr. Curtis, se bajó de su carro y él llegó y lo abrazó por atrás y lo empezó a apuñalar. Algunos muchachos vieron y trataron de ayudarle y el muchacho se regresó nuevamente a seguirlo apuñalando y le cortó el cuello.
Lind was set to provide key testimony in the upcoming trial against his 2019 attackers. On January 20th, Youngblood, the supposed newlywed, and a German national, Felix Bauchholt, also known as Ophelia, are driving near the Vermont-Canada border. They're pulled over for an immigration check. Youngblood allegedly shoots an officer and a shootout ensues. Border agent David Mayland and Bauchholt are killed. Youngblood is arrested and faces 2 weapons charges. Investigators say Youngblood had been in frequent contact with a person of interest in the Vallejo murder case, who had also been detained in the Pennsylvania double homicide. The day after the border shootout, an alert is issued calling Michelle Zatko a person of interest in the killing of border agent Mayland and seeks info on Zatko's purchase of firearms. Michelle is also listed in another law enforcement bulletin as a person of interest in the Pennsylvania double slaying. Michelle's name is listed on legal notices regarding the estates of Richard and Rita. Maximilian Snyder, meanwhile, is arrested by Vallejo police in Reading. He's a suspect in the Lind murder. He's booked in Solano County Jail without bail on murder charges, with prosecutors alleging that he killed Lind to keep him from testifying. Snyder appears in court for an arraignment, which is ultimately pushed back to February 6th. Because his lawyer is out of the country. We're still trying to connect the dots, and a lot of questions remain, but be sure to follow our reporting at sfchronicle.com.
Okay. All right. Did anyone catch that? I'm sure not, because goddamn, could it be any more involved or complicated? So let's do it again, okay? And we'll stop it periodically. Because I think that you've heard enough where you can get it if we stop periodically and orient. Okay, so check it out.
How is a murder in Vallejo connected to the killing of a...
Oh, let's stop again. You see this quotation here? I am sane. I do not plead insanity. I am innocent. I take no plea deal. Okay? That's that guy right there who killed the old man allegedly, right? That's him. Okay. So from his recent hearing or that was handed over to the judge. Okay. So let's go.
Border Patrol agent in Vermont, an elderly couple in Pennsylvania, and a fringe group in the Bay Area. I've been working with my colleagues at the Chronicle to make it all make sense for you. Let's go back to November 2019.
All right. So let's stop there. Now, remember how this all starts. It starts with them getting on the radar. And the way that they get on the radar is that this group goes to protest at a place that they had formerly been associated with, which is this rationalist organization. Okay, they go to this place with the Guy Fawkes mask on and in black robes, and they block the exits and entrances, and they end up getting arrested for that. As a result of that arrest, they file lawsuits to try to claim harassment, prejudice, abuse, etc. So, but this is where we're starting, where they go to this protest. Okay, this fledgling group.
Radical offshoot of the rationalist movement called the Zizians stage a protest against the Center for Applied Rationality while dressed in black robes and Guy Fawkes masks. Ziz, the group leader, who's also known as Jack Lasota, and 3 associates were arrested: Emma Borhanian, Gwen Danielson, and Alexander Leatham. Fast forward almost 2 years, Ziz and the associates file a federal lawsuit against...
All right, so there you go. So they wait 2 years and they file a federal lawsuit, right?
Sonoma County, Westminster Woods, and to 2 deputies. They say they were wrongly arrested, abused, assaulted, and mocked for being transgender. In August of 2022, Ziz allegedly dies in a boating accident.
Okay, so then he fakes his own death. And remember, after he fakes his own death, this other one fakes his own death. Okay, so both of them fake their own deaths in short order. So let's do it.
In San Francisco Bay, according to an obituary in a Fairbanks, Alaska newspaper. Then in November, Leatham, Borhanian, and Dow allegedly attack their Vallejo landlord, Curtis Lind, with one impaling him with a samurai sword through his chest. Lind shoots 2 of his assailants, killing Borhanian.
All right. So after the faking of the death, then they attack this old man and injure him, but he ends up shooting and injuring or killing one of the attackers.
Survives the attack, but is left blind in one eye. Leatham and Dow are charged with murder and attempted murder. A few months later, in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania, Richard Zatko and his wife Rita are found shot to death in their home.
Okay, so the next big deal is that this elderly couple in Pennsylvania is shot to death in their home, and they're found a couple days later. And remember, it's their daughter who is found with the weapons, as having purchased the weapons, one of the weapons used to kill this couple. So the question is, did the daughter kill the couple, or did the daughter and friends kill the couple, or did the daughter purchase the weapons that were used to kill this couple? But the daughter had purchased, allegedly, one of the weapons used to kill this elderly couple, and that's how it's going to tie, because these same weapons end up killing the Border Patrol agent.
And Jack Lasota, the namesake of the Zizian movement, was arrested in the state as police investigated that crime, indicating that Ziz was actually very much alive. Remember,
because he's tied in, because when they go to the hotel to serve the search warrant on the daughter of the elderly deceased couple, she says, yeah, he's in the next room over.
Federal lawsuit Ziz filed in 2021, that's now dismissed because the plaintiffs are unwilling to pursue further action. In November of last year, Teresa Youngblood and Maximilian Snyder apply for a marriage license in Washington.
Okay, and the way this is connected is that the guy Max there is allegedly the killer of the old man, and the girl here, Youngblood, who's allegedly married to him or had applied for a marriage license with him, is with someone else and shooting at the Border Patrol, and that she's the one who allegedly gets off the shot that kills the Border Patrol agent. So you see how this is twisted and how it's odd?
State. It's unclear if they ever got married. The couple went to high school together in Seattle and studied computer science at prestigious universities. We'll get back to them in a second. On January 17th, 2025, Curtis Lind, the Vallejo landlord, is attacked and stabbed yet again. This time, Lind dies from his injuries. We talked to a man who...
Okay, so it's just saying that guy allegedly comes back and kills him, okay, because he's going to testify to the prior attack in which he survived but lost the eye. And this is Spanish, but it's easy Spanish, and it's also translated, so you can listen or listen carefully or read it. But basically, he just says that when the old man gets out the car, they come from behind, grab him, start stabbing him, and then run away, but then come back and slit his throat.
Who works at an auto body shop across the street from where the crime happened. Here's what he said of the gruesome killing.
El señor, Mr. Curtins, se bajó de su carro y él llegó y lo abrazó por atrás y lo empezó a apuñalar. Algunos muchachos vieron y trataron a ayudarle y el muchacho se regresó nuevamente a seguirlo apuñalando y le cortó el cuello.
Lind was set to provide key testimony in the upcoming trial against his 2019 attackers. On January 20th, Jungblut, the supposed newlywed, and a German national, Felix Bauchholt, also known as Ophelia, are driving near the Vermont-Canada border. They're pulled over for an immigration check. Jungblut allegedly shoots an officer and a shootout ensues. Border agent David Malin and Bauchholt are killed. Jungblut is arrested and faces 2 weapons charges.
Now notice, okay, let me stop that. Let's take a pause because I want to do a little soapbox right now. Notice they said 2 weapons charges. They didn't say murder. Now this is a federal agent. So what I think's happening, remember what they confiscated from that car. They got cell phones. I heard from another law enforcement officer saying that there were computers retrieved. Okay. You got all kind of tactical gear. You've got stuff to check out. So what I think is happening, they have not dropped charges on her yet. They're just holding her with the weapons charges. Remember, she's injured from taking return fire. They're holding her. They're going to hold her indefinitely. I am sure that the feds are going to bring charges, okay? And they're probably trying to put together and working on the investigation to try to go and apprehend this main guy. And so that I'm sure they want everyone. So they're probably working on getting everyone wrapped up and in custody. And then they're going to drop big charges on all of them. And you know she's getting murder. You know, she should get the murder for the Border Patrol agent and for the person she was with, because that's felony murder, because that her buddy ended up dead. The German immigrant ended up dead. The Border Patrol officer ended up dead. So she should get those charges. So it's going to be interesting to watch this all play out. And I'm sure over time it's going to happen. Because remember, this was just January 20. Anyway, that's my little input there.
Investigators say Jungblut had been in frequent contact with a person of interest in the Vallejo murder case who had also been detained in the Pennsylvania double homicide. The day after the border shootout, an alert is issued calling Michelle Zadko a person of interest in the killing of border agent Mayland and seeks info on Zadko's purchase of firearms.
You know why? Because when they did the ballistics went back to this girl, okay, who's the daughter of the elderly couple who's dead. You see?
Michelle is also listed in another law enforcement bulletin as a person of interest in the Pennsylvania double slaying. Michelle's name is listed on legal notices regarding the estates of Richard and Rita. Maximilian Snyder.
Now, I haven't said this yet. Let me add this too. She was set to inherit the wealth of her parents. So some of the conspiracy theories I see floating around and some of the speculation is that the murder of her parents was in order, it was about money and getting money to this cult. That's sort of the line of reasoning that law enforcement is insinuating, that there's looking at, was this a hit on the parents so that the daughter who's tied to this group would inherit that large amount of money to be able to help fund the group.
Is arrested by Vallejo police in Redding. He's a suspect in the Lynn murder. He's booked in Solano County Jail without bail on murder charges, with prosecutors alleging that he killed Lynn to keep him from testifying. Snyder appears in court for an arraignment, which is ultimately pushed back to February 6th because his lawyer is out of the country. We're still trying to connect the dots, and a lot of questions remain, but be sure to follow our reporting.
All right, so let me do it again. Now that I hope those are all clear points.
How is a murder in Vallejo connected to the killing of a Border Patrol agent in Vermont, an elderly couple in Pennsylvania, and a fringe group in the Bay Area? I've been working with my colleagues at the Chronicle to make it all make sense for you. Let's go back to November 2019. A radical offshoot of the rationalist movement called the Zizians stage a protest against the Center for Applied Rationality while dressed in black robes and Guy Fawkes masks. Ziz, the group leader, who's also known as Jack Lasota, and 3 associates were arrested: Emma Borhanian, Gwen Danielson, and Alexander Leatham. Fast forward almost 2 years, Ziz and the associates file a federal lawsuit against Sonoma County, Westminster Woods, and the 2 deputies. They say they were wrongly arrested, abused, assaulted, and mocked for being transgender. In August of 2022, Ziz allegedly dies in a boating accident in San Francisco Bay, according to an obituary in a Fairbanks, Alaska newspaper. Then in November, Leatham, Borhanian, and Dow allegedly attack their Vallejo landlord, Curtis Lind, with one impaling him with a samurai sword through his chest. Lind shoots 2 of his assailants, killing Borhanian. Lind survives the attack, but is left blind in one eye. Leatham and Dow are charged with murder and attempted murder. A few months later, in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania, Richard Zatko and his wife Rita are found shot to death in their home. And Jack Lasota, the namesake of the Zizian movement, was arrested in the state as police investigated that crime, indicating that Ziz was actually very much alive. Remember the federal lawsuit Ziz filed in 2021? That's now dismissed because the plaintiffs are unwilling to pursue further action. In November of last year, Teresa Youngblood and Maximilian Snyder apply for a marriage license in Washington state. It's unclear if they ever got married. The couple went to high school together in Seattle and studied computer science at prestigious universities. We'll get back to them in a second. On January 17th, 2025, Curtis Lind, the Vallejo landlord, is attacked and stabbed yet again. This time, Lind dies from his injuries. We talked to a man who works at an auto body shop across the street from where the crime happened. Here's what he said of the gruesome killing.
El señor, Mr. Cortins, se bajó de su carro y él llegó y lo abrazó por atrás y lo empezó a apuñalar. Algunos muchachos vieron y trataron de ayudarle y el muchacho se regresó nuevamente a seguirlo apuñalando y le cortó el cuello.
Lind was set to provide key testimony in the upcoming trial against his 2019 attackers. On January 20th, Youngblood, the supposed newlywed, and a German national, Felix Bauchholt, also known as Ophelia, are driving near the Vermont-Canada border. They're pulled over for an immigration check. Youngblood allegedly shoots an officer and a shootout ensues. Border agent David Mayland and Bauchholt are killed. Youngblood is arrested and faces 2 weapons charges. Investigators say Youngblood had been in frequent contact with a person of interest in the Vallejo murder case who had also been detained in the Pennsylvania double homicide. The day after the border shootout, an alert is issued calling Michelle Zatko a person of interest in the killing of border agent Mayland and seeks info on Zatko's purchase of firearms. Michelle is also listed in another law enforcement bulletin as a person of interest in the Pennsylvania double slaying. Michelle's name is listed on legal notices regarding the estates of Richard and Rita. Maximilian Snyder, meanwhile, is arrested by Vallejo police in Redding. He's a suspect in the Lynn murder. He's booked in Solano County Jail without bail on murder charges, with prosecutors alleging that he killed Lynn to keep him from testifying. Snyder appears in court for an arraignment, which is ultimately pushed back to February 6th because his lawyer is out of the country. We're still trying to connect the dots, and a lot of questions remain, but be sure to follow our reporting at sfchronicle.com.
All right. So I think that's about as that's about as much as we can do with going back over that. Now, there's one more thing I want to share. And this is interesting because this is coming from someone with knowledge of these people. Okay. This will help us maybe understand some of the mental states of these people. I mean, keep in mind that our society has been inundated with propaganda. We have been severely propagandized in the past many years. And I think that what we're seeing with a lot of this is a result of that. And anyway, let's take a little deep look at this. Okay. So remember back that this all starts back in the 2019 zone when these people come onto the radar. Okay. It says attendants of the 2019 CFAR alumni reunion were shocked to arrive at Camp Meeker only to be turned away by police. The venue was occupied by 5 masked protesters in black robes. Surrounding them were several police cruisers, SWAT, and a helicopter. The figures who were reportedly there to protest had made themselves seem too sinister, and the police response was based on the procedure for dealing with a mass shooting. According to eyewitnesses, the resulting showdown involved 5 screaming at police surrounding them. Nevertheless, the masked women turned out to be men. But they were unarmed when they were brought into custody. Surreal as this was for the CFAR alumni, people farther away from the situation found it captivatingly odd, says this author. The story was weird enough to even receive brief national attention when it was retweeted. Retweeted. And so just who were these masked protesters? And what did they want out of crashing the alumni reunion? To answer that question, we'll take a look into a peculiar online cult that operates in the Bay Area, Z's. The central character in our story is Z's, who writes a blog called Sinceriously. Sinceriously started out as a self-improvement column, giving advice on motivation and habits. Over time, it became a platform for Z's to discuss his ethical and social theories. Before the Camp Meeker protest, Z's was best known for his Rationalist Fleet project. Rationalist Fleet was supposed to be a way to avoid paying high Bay Area rents by living on boats. The idea was that if you could extract people from paying rent, they could spend time studying and get access to the Bay Area network. And he tells it on his blog, Rationalist Fleet did not go well. Having moved to the Bay Area so he could work on AI risk, the dysfunction of the Bay wore him down. His posts became progressively more bitter over time, until the latest ones outright accuse CFAR and MIRI of sexual and financial crimes. Shortly after these posts, Z's and 4 others interrupted the alumni reunion with a masked protest. The accusations might seem like motivation for the protest, but even a quick glance at the flyer that was supposed to be given out to the CFAR alumni shows there's more to the story here. Purpose of this document. 4 other people went with Ziz to his protest. Doing a quick count, there's at least 9 folks in his orbit who endorse his ideas and keep mutual friendships. That's right, at least 9. Are you listening out there? At least 9 in his orbit. The purpose of this document is to warn you not to join them. Ziz is a master manipulator. He is extremely skilled at selling people on nonsense ideas about decision theory and ethics that defy not just the rules of rationality, but basic common sense. Ziz is particularly interested in AI risk researchers and approaches them under the guise of providing mental tech for people to build a singleton based on altruism. That is a reward, rewarding people Ziz likes and hurting people he doesn't like. If you're a what is it? Probably the FAI person, an AI person who has been approached by Ziz, you should read the sections Rocco's ballistic or basilisk and unhemispheric sleep before getting involved. Functional decision theory. The theoretical basis for Zizian social conduct is Yudkowsky and Soares' functional decision theory. Functional decision theory is designed as an answer to Newcomb-like problems where the actions of others are conditional on which decision theory an agent uses. In normal English, it's about situations where the environment will change depending on who you are. A classic example is a choice between 2 boxes full of money. The first box has much more money in it, but only if you're the sort of person who will take that box and leave the other behind. Functional decision theory says the solution to this problem is to choose a strategy which responds to the situation by only taking the first box. It asserts an acasual theory of decisions where you do not make choices between outcomes, but choices between strategies. Instead of saying, now that I'm here, I'll take both boxes, an FDT agent says, I know I only get to be here if I 1 box, so I'll 1 box. In Zizian thought, this concept is expanded to justify behavior that would make a sovereign citizen blush. Zizians do not think it's ever valid to surrender. The reasoning goes that if someone is trying to extract the surrender from you, giving in is choosing a strategy that gets coerced into the surrender. If you fight bitterly, you prevent the coercion in the first place by making it too costly to fight you. Associated phrases, no sell, collapse the timeline. Boy, isn't this this is why this group is collapsing, okay? This is why this group is collapsing. They are collapsing. It's a cult that's collapsing in on itself, and we're watching it out here. And unfortunately, people are dying in the process. This can only be valid or a valid way to think about things. This can often be a valid way to think about things, but Ziz and her followers apply it in every scenario without considering the power difference between fighters. If you can't make it costly enough to fight you, refusing to surrender is a sure way to see the inside of a jail cell or the pearly gates. Boy, these warnings have turned out to be prophetic, haven't they? We see in this action during the Camp Meeker incident. While we can only speculate on the motives of the protesters for screaming at police, it seems likely this played an important role. Hemispheres. Ziz bases his social theories on the idea that a person is made up of core and structure. Structure is the derived aspects of a person's identity and skill set. It is everything that is downstream of their chosen strategy. Core is the thing which chooses a strategy. It is what has a moral patiency in Ziz's theories. Ziz writes that each person has two cores made up of their left and right hemispheres. Each of these is considered a full person. When Ziz says person, he really means an animal's core. What the shit? So, okay. So this is basically a multiple personality theory. So you're speculating that every person is dual personality to begin with. Ziz believes that there are two kinds of core, good and non-good. Non-good cores are the most common. About 95% of the okay. Well, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree. In Delphi, yeah, 95% is pretty much no good. And I generally don't like people in general, but yeah, you know, if you're starting from you're the 5%, that's good. Okay, this is where let's reverse engineer this. These people are starting from the perspective that they are the 5% that is good in this world, and everyone else is not. A non-good core is one that only grants full agency when dealing with issues of self-survival or protecting offspring. This is enforced by a filter that only unlocks full agency when it detects those objects in a situation. Sometimes this filter breaks, producing a good core. People have two cores. There are three basic alignments: non-good, single good, and double good. Single good is about 5% of the population. Having one broken core, which allows limited altruistic agency. Ziz seems to believe the probability of cores breaking is independent. That means the double good alignment only occurs in 1/4 of 1% of people. This is important because double goods are the only people who can have full altruistic agency in Ziz's worldview. This is your cult leader. This is your cult leader here. 1/4 of 1%. I mean, what do you call this? Far left trans extremists, or no, wait, far left trans vegan AI rationalist extremist. 1/4 of 1%. Double good. All right. In this model, core cannot be changed, and you're stuck with the morality you have. Well, bad news for Delphi. This is important to consider in later sections where we talk about what Ziz tells people about their cores. Moral progress. Zizians believe normal ideas about morality are mostly obfuscated nonsense. They think real morality is simple and has already been put on paper by Jeremy Bentham with his utilitarian ideas. Well, bad job for you, dude. Bad job for you. Ain't no man. All right. Ain't no man. All right. Bentham famously predicted an expanding scope of moral concern. He says if humanity is honest with itself, it will eventually adopt uncompromising veganism. Okay. Well, here's a little insight. So you see how central veganism is to this thinking. Okay. Zizians think arguments which don't acknowledge this are not about morality at all. They're about local struggles for power, delaying the removal of an unjust status quo. This is a lot of the reason why they're so unhappy with MIRICFAR. To them, these organizations waste their time on fake philosophy problems. In trying to figure out human values, they are not fighting philosophical difficulties, but rather their own cowardice and refusal to update on their poor moral practices. This also suggests a desire to secede from society. In the mind of a Zizian, liberalism means the same thing it does for a communist or Nazi, an opportunity for decadence, vice, and corruption. Because we already know the correct moral policy is a ruthlessly enforced altruism towards all or almost all living creatures. Supporting liberalism is to participate in crime on a mass scale. They believe that now is the time to betray our corrupt society and establish a vegan hegemony. Wow, what fucking whack jobs. Ziz writes on his blog that he spent a long time suffering from basilisks. The anxiety seems to have been resolved by trying to become one. Ziz doesn't write about it publicly, but supports Nuremberg trials. Nuremberg trials after the singularity to punish people for eating meat. Are you listening? Are you listening? Nuremberg trials to punish people for eating meat. I'm not going to read any of this bullshit shit here, but let's keep it going. Other Zizians seem to share his viewpoint. In the pamphlet distributed at Camp Meeker is a passage threatening to punish non-good people. Eliezer offered us heaven. I'll consider, what is that? Ill considered solace in hopes of heaven worships hell. Two futures only, extinction versus utopia. Why two? What really prevents an evil, unjust singleton? No motive for predation, post scarcity. False indifference is not a like that. That's straight up I don't know. It's kind of shit is this? Kind of shit is this? It's like schizo talk, right? This is schizo talk, schizo poetry. It's important to read the post net negative to have the full context for this. And in it, Ziz describes how he doesn't just think animals and insects are important moral patients, but of approximately equal worth to human beings. Okay. I think we discussed the unilateralist curse. Also in the context of talking about consequentialism, I told a story about a time I had killed 4 ants in a bathtub where I wanted to take a shower before going to work. How I had considered, can I just not take a shower, and presume me smelling bad at work would, because of big numbers and the fate of the world and stuff, make the world worse than the deaths of 4 basically casually isolated people. I said I didn't know whether ants had feelings or not, but I ran empathy in a I have to feel what I'm doing way for the people they might have been. And I considered getting paper and a cup and taking them elsewhere. Dude, they're ants. I mean, do you know how many microscopic creatures you kill just walking around the face of the earth? I mean, or scratching your ass. There's going to be little mites, skin mites living on the detritus of your ass crack. And as you scratch it, you're killing them. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Please take a shower. Don't smell bad at work, because I'm tired of smelling your kind. When Ziz talks about punishing people who will build hell, he really means people who are singularitan. How do you even say that? Is that a word? Singularitans, without being vegan. The basic idea is that human value might endorse conditions for the rest of earthly life that are unacceptable from a Bentham utilitarian point of view. He also probably means a bunch of other people, but if you're reading this, the important point is that he has you in mind. Cult tactics. Unhemispheric sleep. One of the techniques that Ziz uses to manipulate people is unhemispheric. And that says unihemispheric. Unihemispheric sleep is a form of sleep where only one half of the brain rests at a time. Normally, it's not possible for human beings to sleep with only one hemisphere. However, a weak form of unihemispheric sleep can be achieved by stimulating one half of the body and resting the other. Like hypnosis or fasting. This is a vulnerable psychological state for a person. Entering unihemispheric sleep requires a sleeper to be exhausted. It also has disorienting effects so that they are not quite themselves. The Zizians exploit this state to convince the unwary that they are actually two people. Ziz believes themselves to be double good and almost without exception tells the people he is recruiting that they are single good. So this motherfucker is 1/4% of the only good on earth. By doing this, Ziz establishes a relationship of moral superiority over his followers. It's called a cult. Ziz uses unihemispheric sleep as a secret he rations out to his followers. But the process is simple. To perform unihemispheric sleep, you need to be tired. You need to be laying down or sitting up. In either case, you want to close one eye and keep the other open. Distract the open eye with some kind of engagement. Eventually, you should feel yourself begin to fall asleep on one side. That side will also become numb. Once in unihemispheric sleep, it is supposed to be possible to infer which aspects of your personality are associated with which side of the brain. One of the dangers of unihemispheric sleep is that it provides us a false sense of rest after waking. If you pay close attention, you'll realize that you're inhibited and need real sleep. It's also unknown if unihemispheric sleep reveals a twin personhood or causes it by desynchronizing the sleeper. You might be giving yourself split personality by using this technique. You think? For readers who plan to try anyway, we suggest doing it alone or with a trusted friend. A trusted friend means someone who does not have an interest in the results you get, i.e. not Z's or one of his friends. Don't do this shit around the cult. According to someone familiar with the matter, Z's played a large role in the death of Maya Pasak, also known as Squirrel in Hell. Maya tried unihemispheric sleep as a way to gain awareness of their twin personhood, what Ziz calls debucketing. We're told these sessions were done with Ziz and involved telling Maya to focus on their suicidal impulses while in a disoriented state. Ziz briefly mentions this in his post, Good Group and Passek's Doom, but skips over the details for obvious reasons. Supposedly, Maya begins using unihemispheric sleep as an alternative to real sleep. If you paid attention to the previous section, you understand that's a bad idea. Between their natural suicidal impulses, the sessions with Z's, and prolonged sleep deprivation from substituting real sleep with unihemispheric sleep, Maya probably had a mental break and committed self-deletion. Cutting off support networks. Z's will tell people they are in the process of indoctrinating to get away from trusted family, friends, and lovers. Jay gives an example of this on her blog with the comment, it's still noteworthy that Z's tried to break up a happy marriage so like someone could spend less time with being a partner or being with a partner and more time trying to save the world. Doing that is a good way to get people to stop satisfying their values and in turn become less effective. Thank you. Jargon and loaded language. Many people find Z's blog nearly impossible to read. It's thick with odd jargon that confuses readers. Familiar with terms such as good, justice, and alive are given new familiar terms are given new meanings, skewed with Z's perspective. Z's enemies are vampires, the mass of enlightened humanity, zombies, nice folks who don't see things his way, single good. The construction of good is particularly jarring. Z's comes out and directly says he intends to fight any use of the word good that doesn't agree with his perspective. So you see, we all are the vampires, zombies, single good. that means 95% of the world, or is it well, he's 1/4, so that means everyone else. That means 975. All right. This jargon serves multiple purposes. An important one is that it separates Zizians from others. The cost to read and understand seriously is substantial, and most people are not willing to pay it. Another is to warp the beliefs of people who use it. The connotations and effect of Z's jargon encode his moral beliefs about the world separated from quality of reasoning used to produce them. By offering language that reinforces these judgments, Z's creates conditions where even engaging with the beliefs of his followers requires repetition and reinforcement of their frame, creating a new identity. The idea that every human being is actually two people is not just recognized as an abstract fact. Zizanisms, or Zizans, encourage the adoption of a new identity along these lines, giving a name to each hemisphere. They also encourage new members to make significant and often uncharacteristic lifestyle changes. Yeah, it's a cult. Most often, a new Zizian is told they need to become vegan to remain in the group. Wardrobe changes might be encouraged. Ziz himself famously wears dark robes at all times, a preference which explains the ill-fated decision to show up at the alumni reunion in sinister garb. Transgender and bigender. All 4 people arrested as part of Ziz's protests were transgender. This is far from coincidence, as Z seems to go out of his way to target transgender people. In terms of cult indoctrination, such folks are an excellent fit. They're often financially vulnerable. Newly out transgender people are especially likely to already be estranged from friends and family. It's common for them to lack stable housing. Many traditional social services reject them for cultural or religious reasons. Intolerant attitudes among the underclass hit twice. They can't rely on strangers for help, and being transgender often makes them a target for violence, making them outcast among outcasts. Already creating a new identity. During transition, people change their name. This creates an opportunity for Z's to insert himself into recruits' ongoing transitions. By showing them their double personhood as they're abandoning their old identity, it's possible to convince recruits to adopt a Zizian name as their new social identity. As the name implies, transition is a time of transition. Old patterns and habits tend to fall away. People who have spent several years repressing important parts of themselves suddenly have the opportunity to completely change their social presentation. This does not always mean someone wants to play the same role as before, but a different gender. With radical changes that can accompany transition come strong opportunities for radicalization. All of these factors combine to make Ziz, himself a transgender, more credible to recruits than he might otherwise be. A privileged, normal person with close family and stable housing might reject boat housing out of hand. I don't know, that sounds iffy to me. But for someone facing mortal danger after their rude ejection into the underclass, it's an easier pill to swallow. It can't be worse than sleeping on the street, right? Another important concept Ziz uses to manipulate people is the idea of being bigender. Ziz claims that each hemisphere has a gender, and that fairly often people have opposing gender identities between hemispheres. This provides a convenient basis for him to undermine the identity of people he's recruiting. If the target is a heterosexual human being, he'll tell them their other half is trans. If the target is trans, he'll tell them the other half is heterosexual. It's a similar disorienting trick to the idea of single and double good. If the target identifies as good, he'll tell them the other half is irredeemably evil. If they identify amorally, he'll amorally insist that half of them is a saint. The pattern is to take aspects of folks' identities that they've invested in and disrupt them by creating a domain of self which Ziz and only Ziz has knowledge about, so the target is forced to trust his interpretation. Conclusion: because they've operated in obscurity until recently, it seems likely that the most concerning or abusive aspect of Zizian philosophy are not public knowledge. What is known at present is more than enough to be alarmed. Ziz preaches a doctrine of radical, high-tech veganism that promotes punishing your ideological enemies. He rejects the idea of niceness, community, and civilization. That's often at the core of effective altruism and AI safety movement member concerns. Yeah, called reality. They use unethical tactics to onboard new members, encouraging isolation from friends and family, etc. Perhaps most concerning is his indifference to the felony conspiracy charge caused by their poor protest planning. As far as we can tell, the Camp Meeker incident has not been a wake-up call for anyone involved. And that was the forewarning by someone familiar, very familiar with these people. And turned out to be pretty prophetic. All right, so remember, this is big. This is big. There's a lot of bodies behind this group, and hopefully you see now. I wanted to read that one to give you some insight into the inner workings of what these people are thinking. This kind of extremist irrational judgment, of people, the rejecting of normal societal means to communicate and get along and be cordial, share thoughts, communicate. It's just very extreme and it's intolerant. And what was particularly concerning as I went through that is the concept of forcing scenarios to a climax to maintain some control of the outcome. You know what I mean? So how did they term this? They termed it like a so it goes like this, where this person, this author said, the reasoning goes that if someone is trying to extract a surrender from you, giving in is choosing a strategy that gets coerced into surrender. If you fight bitterly, you prevent the coercion in the first place by making it too costly to fight you. Associated phrases: no sell, collapse the timeline. And this group makes it the norm to apply this concept in every single scenario without considering power differences or situations. So, which is why you had the shootout with the, obviously that would be one of the reasons to have the shootout with the Border Patrol, right? Because at that moment, at that intersection in space and time, the Border Patrol is attempting to stop you. You don't want to surrender because that would be choosing a strategy that gets coerced into surrender. So you fight bitterly to prevent coercion. So in other words, instead of surrendering to the Border Patrol, you fight bitterly to the end. And it would have been the same with the landlord. You see, with the landlord, the landlord wanted the money, and you fight bitterly to the end with the landlord. And now he's dead. And the parents of this young lady in Pennsylvania, I mean, you've got a lot of people who are falling behind this sort of strategy. It's basically everything inside out. I mean, as I've read through this, the best way to sum it to me is that it's everything totally inverted, inside out. Do you honestly think that this control freak cares at all that any of the orbiters around him are dead, or that any of the people out there in the world that this group has intersected with have ended up dead as a result of non-surrender in moments of crisis? I don't think so. But this is the group. And anyway, this guy, I'm just going to put him up there. Keep your eye out. California. Pennsylvania, Vermont. Let me see. This is another one. These are just some of the photos. I mean, it's pretty interesting. So you keep people sleep deprived, okay, which causes anxiety, causes irrational thinking. You separate them from their friends and family, from their social connections. You know, it's typical narcissistic abuse patterns. Change their dietary regimen and limit them to eating only veganism. You know, like how are you gonna in my life, you know, an anecdote that I'll tell just to relate personally. You know, remember this is the one here. This is the one who is now in jail, awaiting charges. Okay. Pardon. This is one who killed the old man. I've just noticed as I journey through my life in that why is it also often that the ones who I've encountered in life who have been most fascistly intolerable, unreasonable, just complete uptight assholes have often been vegans. Often doing it wrong, you know, because the lack of fatty acids in the brain. One thing I studied a lot was electromagnetism. And I know how electromagnetism in the brain, it doesn't function well when there's a lack of fat in the brain. And as soon as you get off of an animal included diet or you go strictly veganism, and most people do not have money, knowledge, or ability to consume enough fats on that diet, and they go into that zone where you can just tell that things are not firing right in the brain, causing these personality issues. And so it's no surprise to me. It's no surprise to me that this sort of extreme fanatical type of thinking happens because you're, you know, in all ways there's no balance. You're aloof. You're in some other places, and then it's bordering on schizophrenia, the way that the electromagnetics start to work around the brain because of the lack of fats. You know, the fats are the primary carriers of nanometals in the body. And it's the nanometals that facilitate the conduction of metals of electromagnetism through the body, especially your platinum group. So your nano golds, your nano silver, nano coppers. So you need the fats to allow your brain to work and your electromagnetism to work, and it's just almost impossible to achieve that on a vegan diet, and it is the way that it is. But this whole thing is just it's really disturbing. It's disturbing. But anyway, we'll be keeping up on that. I wanted to present it because I don't see anyone doing it. There's so few. There are so few. But we'll be looking at it, and I'll be following it. And Nobody Nothing asked earlier about the Sparrenburg. Elena, I believe it is Sparrenburg. I'm still following that. That's still ongoing. They're still getting the ball rolling with that. It's really bad. But I am in touch with the sergeant who's in charge of that. So no worry, I'll keep tabs on that. Now I'm going to be keeping tabs on this. And I don't know what else to say. I think I'm done. I feel like I'm done. We did not reach our little goal with the let me see what I put up. Oh, the super chat goal, but that's fine. That's fine. It's a fun thing that YouTube now has in the live chats, where there's a little goal post or a target there to put up. So that was a nice thing there. All right. Now, all right. So let me see any updates that I need to get on with the community page. No, we covered that yesterday. The other community page. So I know there's something I'm supposed to do. Oh, I know. I wanted to talk. I don't know if Diana's still here. Are you here, Diane? See if she's still here. She may or may not be here. Oh, I thought it'd be nice to do this on the way out, but I don't think she's still here. But so Diane, damn. No, she must have gone. But okay, so here's the deal. Diane wrote to Richard Allen, and he wrote back. All right, so let me do this. I'll read you something, and this is going to be interesting to you. And we don't want to really post this yet because without asking him for permission, it would be rude to post it without asking. But let me read you what she wrote in his reply. Would you like that? Because he did reply, and this was yesterday or day before. It was yesterday. Oh, did she say she's on her way home? And well, hopefully she'll watch. Hopefully she'll come in as I'm reading it, because I'll read hers, and I'll read the reply that he sent, and then I'll give you the update, because there's an update also. So she said, "Hi, Rick. I hope this email finds you well. I'm Diane. I wrote you once, but who knows if you got the letter through the mail. I just finished watching a YouTube interview of Brad, Andy, and Jennifer, and so many of your supporters are stumped on what to do to help. Where do we start? They said they don't think you're able to speak with anyone for 4 to 6 weeks. Since my uncle was in Indiana DOC, I already had this Connect network account set up. So I'm trying to reach out to see if you will receive this email. I put $25 on your books and I can add credits for you to make phone calls, but I wasn't sure if the credits I bought would only apply to me as I want to be able to call, as I want you to be able to call your family, not me. I hope to hear back from you, sending you strength and positivity from your supporters. All right. And she wrote him several, but that's the one that we agreed that I could share with you. And then he wrote back this. He says, "God bless you. I'm kind of in a daze right now, but okay. Not sure how much time I have because I'm on a kiosk." Okay. And then today, the strangest thing, she got a notice that says this contact is no longer available in your list of contacts. It may be because this contact has been released or you have removed the facility the inmate is housed at from your account. So we're not sure if maybe he ran out of some minutes or dollars for messaging. Maybe they changed to a different message service. Maybe they've restricted his access for some reason. But that's what's going on. So we were trying to figure out today why suddenly is the line of communication disengaged. So that's the update on that. But you got it, okay? So you got the update. But like I said, once we get permission to share the actual messages with you, hopefully she'll have some more and we can share them on the community page so that you can see them, because what strikes me, it's coherent, it's reasonable, it's honest. Sounds okay. Okay, sounds okay. But I'm curious about why it's suddenly not connecting, because for several weeks it's been working just fine. So maybe he ran out of money on the account, and if once the money goes down to zero, it might disconnect or something. You know how it is. Hey, Diana. Yeah, I was just telling the quick story about the service seeming like it's disconnected with your account or something, but hopefully we'll figure that out. But there's Diana. So anyway, that's probably a good way to close the show. That was that's the update on that. That was a nice thing to do. It's nice to hear. So hopefully we'll troubleshoot that and get it together. And anyway, like I said, we'll be watching. Okay, we'll be watching. Anyway, for those of you who might have missed yesterday's show, I got some interesting community posts up if you want to go on there. Check out the community pages. If you've been watching this, please leave a like. Appreciate the likes. Please leave a like. I appreciate it. And also, I have the ways to support, like Cash App, buy me a coffee. I also have some photography and stuff available that I really like. Maybe Amy will be able to post it. That, you know what? I may be able to. I'd love to show you. I meant to do that last time. Let's see. What is it called? Let me see if Amy has it. I can click. Can I click the link from here? All right, let me try to see if I can do it. Let's see. It's not as easy to get to as I thought. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's see. Okay, here's what I'll do. This will be a good way to finish out. Share screen. All right, let's see. Everybody all right? See if I can see this too. Can we all see this together? All right. So anyway, I was telling you, this is some of my photography that's available to buy. I'm not really trying to sell it to you, but I love other people having it because several people have purchased it, put it up in their homes, and it makes me feel nice. So, so these are some. You know, there's several, but let's say let's look at this one. Let's say. So you see there's canvas, acrylic on metal, a poster, a wood print on wood, greeting cards. I like some of these. Like this is the Wilson Bridge. No, this is the other bridge that goes over the highway, actually. Read that. That's what that is. This is the high bridge. This is some of the routes. And anyway, Mears Lot. And for those of you never seen that, that's what it is. That's what this is. Some of my photography. Look, we also got this is at Wilson Bridge. This right here is a path down to Wilson Bridge. That's what that is. Anyway, for all of you, I will see you later. Thanks for being here. Let's see. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Super late, says Kayla. What's up, Kayla? All right, Kayla, I'm getting out of here. We're all done. Please watch the replay. Jalen, please watch the replay. What's up? Diana says, what's up? Diana, Chevy Killer. What's up, Chevy Killer? Heather Brown. Thank you, Heather Brown. What's up, Keith? What's up, Nobody Nothing? Gretchen Allen. I'm trying to say hello to everybody before we get out of here. We got Gretchen Allen. We got Miss K. Scott LaFleur. What's up, Scott? Jim Chrisman. What's up? Lisa. All right. Who's your daddy? Kelly, what's up? All right, we got Kelly. Who else we got in here? Carla Ann. Crystal. Lisa, end of the line. Fur baby daddy. Sweet Smith, what's up? Who else is in here? Kit Kat. All right. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. That was Z's Cult, modern day Manson. And I have a feeling we'll be seeing more as that story develops. That's very, very concerning. What's up, Rhonda Holton? Barbara Borman, what's up? Thank you. And please watch the replay. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Jim Chrisman and Miss K. Oh, Jalen watched the whole thing. Thank you, Jalen. All right. Well, you guys enjoy your Friday night. It's still a little bit left to it, at least for me. Maybe it's already Saturday for some of you, but God bless. If you're on the replay, please leave comments down below. Appreciate the comments down below. Always do. I always love the comments down below. The comments down below are awesome after the live post. So please do that. Appreciate y'all for being here. We'll definitely won't see you tomorrow, but might see you soon. All right. So we're out of here. Hug your kids, hug your wife.